In today's business world, change is the only constant, and mastering transformation is the ultimate key to success. Welcome to Shift and Thrive. I'm your host, Natalie Nathanson. Each week, we'll bring you conversations with CEOs who delve into how they successfully drove critical change in their organization. This show is sponsored by Magnitude Consulting, bringing you the thinking power of a growth consultancy and the getting it done power of a full-service B2B marketing agency. Today's guest is someone I'm very excited to introduce. He's a lifelong entrepreneur who launched his first business at the ripe age of 11, selling candy and baseball cards. He's spent much of his career leading and growing an IT services firm that's celebrating their 30th anniversary this year, which is quite a tremendous feat. He's also an accomplished author, speaker, and consultant, sharing insights on technology, business, and personal growth. His recent book, The CEO's Digital Survival Guide, helps executives navigate the digital landscape to protect their company from modern threats. He is the founder and CEO of Stimulus Technologies. Nathan Whittacre, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Natalie. It's great to be here.
It's great to have you. And, I mentioned this in the intro, but I know you've been running your business for 30 years, and I can only imagine how much change you've seen, just given how much has changed in business and technology, and not only running the business, but continually growing the business. So I'm interested to hear, how you've done it. Can you talk a little bit about what's driven that organic growth and maybe what have been some of those investments or key focus areas that have supported that?
Yeah, been an interesting journey over 30 years. Started the business when I was very young with my brother and my dad. My brother and I were, working in the business every day while we were in college. Like a lot of stories in the IT industry, we were working out of his garage for the first few years. And it was, a lot of friends and family and making connections with different people, asking for referrals and just doing work for a lot of people that we knew. And as we were able to do good work for people, we developed these connections in the community. We had people that we worked with that were CPAs, attorneys, in different industries that had a lot of connections into different businesses, and they would introduce us to businesses they were working with. And so initially, a lot of our growth came through referrals and through this network that we created of other business leaders that would introduce us to other people. And we grew pretty rapidly for a couple of guys in the garage. And about 7 years after we started, my brother split off in doing software engineering in a different company. And so I was left to continue to grow the business in about 2002. And certainly technology changed quite a bit. At that point, companies were adopting using internet, email. It's crazy to think that, at that time that there were companies that weren't, didn't have connection to email or internet. And so a lot of our growth came from helping companies, move into that digital age, the information age, implementing new technology inside their businesses. So our growth came, through technology growth in general. We got a couple of very good clients that helped us through that process, and again, a lot of connections. But it kind of ended at some point that referrals only go so far, and so we started working on marketing ourselves. First through guerrilla marketing, just getting out there in networking groups, chambers of commerce, other networking groups, and just making connections. Some advertising, but mostly, through local connections, through industry groups. And that's what we've really stuck with is, digital marketing, and then those one-on-one connections through referral partners, through joint venture partners, and then in a lot of local networking groups that have been great for us over the years.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I think that multi-channel approach of having the referral engine, but not relying too heavily on that is an important one. Because I always say that, you can't, you're not in the driver's seat when you're only relying on referrals, even if they're the biggest component or a sizable component of your new client pipeline. So I think having that kind of sales and marketing engine going is so important.
Yeah, it is. We invested a lot in not a lot, but hiring marketing and sales representatives over the years and growing that team, and driving, through those connections and growing the marketing engine. And we've had to, continue growing it as our revenue's grown. We try to invest somewhere about 3% of our top line revenue in marketing and about 3% in sales and account management. So it's, from a labor and expense standpoint, it's a pretty big budget item for us, but that's what keeps the engine going and allowed us to drive it over the years.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I'm glad you brought up that percentage because I do think that's sometimes it can seem like a mystery of, how much should we be spending and what can we expect to get out of it. And I know the industry data from the analysts can be all over the map of how much to spend on marketing. And I think Gartner says like anywhere from, 6 to 12% of revenue should be reinvested back into the business and marketing. And I think that number, some companies are able to do that and decide to do that, but it can also feel kind of daunting. And sometimes it puts enough fear into the business owner's mind that then they say, okay, we're not even going to do this at all. But clearly you've been able to drive, such tremendous impact from the investments that you made.
Yeah, and some of the hardest times I think to do that is during downturns. I think back we, went through the 2008, 2012 recession. We're based here in Las Vegas. We were hit very hard during that time. We had a huge housing boom in the early 2000s, and then that came crumbling down. Tourism came crumbling down, and we had to make decisions on what we were going to cut. As we had clients, a lot of clients in the construction industry that went out of business, and so we lost a lot of, good clients that we'd had for many years that were larger clients. And we had to make those decisions on how do we continue growing or at least sustain this, the existing level of service, even, in spite of the downturn. And so we, did the opposite of what I think a lot of companies did as we continued to invest in marketing. And me as the owner of the company, I would get out there and meet with individuals, join different networking groups, find new ways of, getting in front of people. And then, we would do other things like sending out direct mail, direct response marketing, and continue building our email marketing. But all those things have allowed us to continue to grow even in spite of, whether it's COVID downturn or the recession, the Great Recession, 2008 to 2012. It's not huge growth, but our goal is, somewhere between 10 and 20% growth each year. And, sometimes we're a little bit above that, sometimes we're a little bit below, but that's what we focus on is that range.
Yeah, yeah, that's fantastic. I'm curious, as you think about building out your sales and marketing team over the years, are there any lessons learned either from kind of mistakes made earlier on? Kind of what's worked best for you in that?
I think one of the things, especially for us as a smaller business, is we wanted to hire one person that could do it all. We wanted a sales and marketing person, and that's kind of a hard, position. Marketing is very different than sales. And, there's a lot of people that say those should be completely separate departments and not, there should be, collaboration between them, but they're very different people. And I agree with that. That's probably one mistake that we did is, try to get a, Swiss Army knife of a person to do all of it. And it's a very hard thing because when you're out selling, you're not monitoring the marketing or doing the marketing services or vice versa. And so, what I've learned over time is there's certainly a lot of different personalities in on the marketing side, on the sales side, on the account management side, and we kind of look at them three different things. We have an account management team that focuses on our current clients and nurturing those client relationships and moving them along our, ideal pathway to excellence in in technology inside their business. So we look at different things that they're doing and try to help improve their technology inside their companies. And, that allows us to sell additional services to them that we might offer. And obviously the technology industry changes over time. So we're always having to, come up with new plans and packages to fight off cyber criminals or, deal with AI that's coming out and help companies implement those tools. And so we're always learning and implementing new things. And then we have our other pipeline, which is our new logos, new clients, our sales pipeline, which are outside sales representatives, and their only job is to find new clients and sell them. And those are our hunters, obviously. So we have farmers on the account management side, hunters on the sales side, and then our marketing team, focuses on not just brand awareness, but we do a lot of direct response marketing, which we find much more effective than just sticking a website out there and hoping people come. You have to do a lot of things to drive people to your company, and especially Google and all these search engines are constantly changing the way that they do things. Email marketing is not greatly effective now because of all the spam blockers that are out there,
Yep.
and so you have to find new ways to get in front of people, and it's a constant challenge. But finding a team that can look for new ways constantly and make those improvements as the industry changes.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm curious, at present, where do your, like, what's the split of how your marketing efforts are focused between supporting kind of the hunters and like the new business side versus customer marketing or nurturing partnerships or those kinds of things?
So we're a little bit larger on our account management side from team members. We have currently 4 people in our account management side and 2 people in um, our hunting side, our sales side. So we are growing our sales team, but we're finding the most success for consistent growth is on our account management side. It's better to retain and grow an existing client than to find a new one. Definitely a lot more costly to have to constantly have churn and finding new clients. It's more important to make sure that our current clients are happy and that they're growing themselves with our products and services that we offer, and then implementing the best technology so that they can grow their business too.
Right, right. Well, I think that's such a healthy sign of like a healthy maturation of a business is to have kind of that bigger piece of the revenue coming from existing clients, whether that's growth or retention, and augmenting that with new business, but not leaning on that so heavily as maybe companies do in the earlier days.
Yeah, it's really hard, to bring in a new client for us is really expensive. I mean, a new client, because of the cost of bringing them in and onboarding them is, we don't see really a return on our sales, marketing, and onboarding efforts for almost a year. It's pretty expensive for us with all the, if we take all those costs involved. So, thinking about, this is a client that hopefully will be with us for a long time. A lot of our clients have been with us 10, 20 years. But, the clients change, they get acquired, they merge with other businesses, and there's reasons for turnover. And so, we do have to always have new pipeline, but we want to make sure that our existing clients stay with us and are happy with our services. And a lot of that comes down to the account management and ensuring that we're doing the right things and communicating effectively with our existing client base.
Right, right. I'm curious to ask you, Nathan, as you think about the present day of the business as related to kind of marketing and the brand, like where do you personally, as the CEO, find your time is best spent?
So I focus a lot of my time on being authoritative by joining podcasts and doing speaking engagements. I also oversee, the general marketing strategy. I have a marketing manager and an assistant, but I oversee the strategy because it's really the brand of the company. Comes from the leadership, whether it's the CEO directing it or the leadership team directing it. So I really enjoy that side of it, and providing a level of expertise also as we're talking about business and technology. I've recently done some speaker training and wrote the book, and it's provided ability for me to represent the company as a whole as an authority of technology, of cybersecurity, of just general leadership. And there's no better person inside a company to represent that than the owner and CEO of the company.
Right, right. Couldn't agree more. And I have a question for you in terms of that, authoritative expertise. You mentioned earlier helping clients currently like implement AI or kind of get ready to do so. Curious, like, what are you advising? And I think it's SMBs primarily, but what are you advising your customers to be doing or thinking about as it relates to that these days?
It is a curious question because business owners want to implement some type of AI services inside the company because, they read on the stories about, this is the cutting edge, this is where the industry is going, and they can see the potential for increased productivity, reduced digital debt, as we call it, and, just improving processes in general. There's two things that we look at. One is what can we do now, and then what's in store, in the near future. What we can do now is really integrating AI in the existing business processes. We really like Microsoft Copilot just because it integrates with your Outlook and Teams and Word, Excel, the different systems that you're used to using and improve the way that the existing users are using those existing technologies. So, not going out and buying something, randomly new, but using a tool that will assist all people inside the company, especially on the administrative side, to improve what they're doing. So we really like that. And that's what we're advising and helping clients implement today because it's immediately additive to how people work. And then on the other side is where we're going here, and I think in the short term is vendors, the companies that write the software that we use every day are integrating more and more AI tools in their software. And so if we look at, a law firm, maybe there's AI tools that allow them to more easily write documents that are built into their existing document management system or better searching case files, things like that. And it's just too expensive currently still for a small law firm practice to go out and build their own tool to do the same thing. We're waiting for these vendors to integrate those technologies inside their existing tools. And I would say, any company that wants to get and implement AI and their existing vendors that they're using don't have those or don't have it on the horizon to build those in, is maybe this is the time to shop and look for what opportunities are out there because there's a lot of new products coming out and it's advancing very quickly. And I think as we integrate these large language models and generative AI into our general business processes is where we'll see the biggest productivity gains. So right now, for especially a small business, a small to lower middle market business, is looking at our vendors, the companies that we're buying existing software from, to incorporate those tools into the software that we're using every day.
Yeah, yeah. That really resonates with me, and I think probably being a bit in your target market, right? We have been on our own kind of journey with an AI and automation and all of that, and I think thinking about, I don't know if this is exactly what you mean with digital debt, but making sure we do have all the standard operating procedures documented so that you can kind of look and see where the efficiency gains can be had. Do we have the right like technology foundations in place, and kind of making some changes to where kind of data and information sits to keep it protected and make it more accessible and all of that, and then like having that strong foundation to build off of. But for a lot of small businesses, I think it's a kind of a new and different discipline, and so getting kind of that rigor in place is different maybe than what's gotten the business to where it's been.
It certainly is. I think you bring up a really good topic that we're finding, even like I mentioned, Microsoft Copilot, for example, for it to work effectively, you have to have your files and your data organized in an appropriate manner and certainly security safeguards to protect that data from getting out, even internally to the wrong people. So you don't want your financial data or tax data to be accessible by, your frontline employees, this confidential data. So, making sure that you're doing the IT side of it to organize data, have it readily available and searchable by these AI models, and making sure that that data is properly protected so that it doesn't get into the wrong hands, internally or externally. So there's certainly a lot of work that businesses can be doing today to get in preparation for these, really the AI evolution of technology.
Yeah, I'm curious for clients of yours that maybe are more kind of leading edge or like more quicker to adopt. Are there any surprises like a certain like industry segment or ones that maybe were more legacy in their operations, not specific names, but any examples that come to mind?
Yeah, I was really surprised that, I expected, for example, an accounting firm or lawyer, law firm, to implement some of these things. But we actually had a few clients that really jumped on board that were in the manufacturing sector. And, they found that, giving their office team these tools, improved the workflow in the office. The people, manufacturing the equipment or the products that they do may not be using AI immediately. Down the road, I think there's opportunities to incorporate AI in some of these shop machines and things that they're using. But I found that, the few clients that, immediately jumped on board with some of these new AI technologies were in the manufacturing sector. So I thought that was kind of surprising to me, and they're finding great success. So it's not just you know intellectual company. It's even on the manufacturing construction. There's a lot of companies that can benefit from this immediately.
Yeah, yeah, it's great. Well, and I feel like there's so much opportunity for them to be able to stay more competitive, especially like in the global market by bringing in more of a technology underpinning.
It's interesting. I mean, if you think about the 30 years that I've been in business, 30 years ago, these type of tools might have existed. AI has actually been around for quite a long time, but they, were consigned to large enterprises or government computer systems, that people that could afford, to build out huge data centers and own those and manage those. Over the 30 years that we've been around, we've seen that those, big tools, the money that it costs to develop those, has really come down to uh, and even a solo entrepreneur can have the same exact tools and be just as effective and productive as a multinational, Fortune 500 company. So it's very interesting how technology has really changed the industry, and I think we see, that small business is now really the engine, the biggest part of the engine of the U.S. economy. And that's really because technology has made it possible for, solo entrepreneurs, small businesses to be as effective and maybe even more effective than large enterprises, because we could be more nimble. We can make changes and improve things much faster than, a Fortune 500 company could. So, it's very interesting. And then you think about, just even gig work, how, Uber and Lyft and DoorDash and things have made it so that, an individual person can, own a taxi company, and be a taxi driver or food delivery. And that was a large company in a city, not too long ago. So it's really changed through technology of how we operate every day.
Yeah, yeah, that's so true. And I think even with all the change we've seen, we're about to see so much more. So it'll be interesting to see all the things coming ahead. I'm curious, like for your client organizations, where in the organization are you seeing kind of the push and the excitement for this? Like, is it from the CEO, business owner, and other executives? Is it more from kind of engineering or IT? Are there any themes to kind of who's driving wanting to explore these changes?
Think it's coming from both sides. Initially, marketing people, I think, jumped on generative AI because they realized, especially from a content creation standpoint, how effective and it could be to generate, content specifically at target clients and markets that you're looking at. And so we see a lot of driving force on that administrative side. But now the business owners look at, hey, this is going to dramatically change my business. I don't want to be caught on the wrong side of the curve on this. We see a lot of from business owners asking, how do we implement this today? What changes do I need to make in my organization? And how can we use it right now? And so those are the conversations that we're constantly having around AI, is more on the business owner side. And then, it's the marketing person that comes along and says, I've been using it for 2 years now. And And now you have to develop the policies and procedures in your organization to ensure that you're using the right tools, so the data's secure, and you're not allowing these free language models to train off of you and allow your company secrets to get out there in the world. So I think business owners are, understanding the importance of, buying the right tools, using the right tools, and implementing those. So that's what we're seeing. It was definitely a shift over the last few months as the business owners and CEOs and C-level people are really looking at where to take this now as the technology is maturing quickly.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Nathan, I wanted to ask you a bit of a more general question. You've been leading your firm for a while now. How do you describe your leadership style? Do you feel like that's evolved over the years? Talk to me a little bit about that.
So when I started the business, it was my brother and we were just young kids. I think about uh, you know, we thought we knew everything. We both, were in the technology field. My degrees are in computer science, and I often say they didn't teach me how to read a balance sheet in computer science school. But I've had to certainly learn how to be a business owner, especially as the business has grown past just a few team members, and understand all aspects of that. And so I'm always learning. I love to learn. I joined a CEO peer group in 2008 that has helped me tremendously to learn from successful business leaders and speakers that would come in and teach us things on HR, on accounting, on sales, on marketing, on just business leadership. And so my leadership style has certainly evolved over the years, but I one thing I don't like is micromanagement. I'm very policy driven. I've taken on the last 5 or 6 years the EOS model for leading a company, and so training and helping leaders inside the company lead their own departments and own teams and providing strategy and oversight for them. And I, as the owner, set the direction of the company. I still get involved in the operations, but it's probably less than 50% of my time now that I'm involved in specific operations, more on the marketing, sales, and driving the change of the business is where I get involved, not on the day-to-day deployment of our software or our services. Um, so my leadership style, I like being involved. I like knowing, but I give my team the capability and ability to make decisions on their own. So leading by example, setting the course of the business, and setting a vision that people want to follow.
Yeah, yeah. We have similarly, we implemented EOS a few years ago. And it's one of those things that once you do it, you just realize how much it simplifies certain things that you're going to get caught up in what feels like the tricky things, but then actually the easy ones, and having that discipline and all of that. I was actually I'm in a CEO peer group as well. I'm an entrepreneurs organization, and is meeting with some of my CEO business owners earlier this week, and we were talking specifically about EOS and who follows it with the rigor to the T, who's made it a bit their own, but also that I think some of the folks that disliked the idea of bringing it in the most were the ones that ultimately got the greatest value out of it for their organizations.
I think, we want to say that we're, creative and inventive, and, there's just best practices out there on how to lead a company. And I'm kind of probably in the middle of what you were saying. We've certainly made it a little bit our own, but it definitely gives some structure. My CEO coach a few years ago, when I was talking about wanting to implement it, he said, really, whatever system you use, maybe it's not the name of the system or, the exact system, but as long as you have a system of operating your company that's effective for your business, I think it's essential. It's when you're constantly changing things, or your team is, getting whiplash on, new ways of doing things, that they get frustrated, and, creates a disorganized culture. But if you have a system, the way that you operate, meetings are on a specific cadence, they're structured in the same way every week. however you meet. It really helps just drive the organization in the same direction.
Right, right. Yeah, I think some of those kind of foundational disciplines, I say like helps to avoid reinventing the wheel unnecessarily, which I feel like in my early days of the business, did that a number of times. And it's, now when we reinvent the wheel, it's on purpose, right? It's, we know what
Yes.
we're doing. We're building our own way of doing it because we believe we have a better way of doing it, but not the things that other people have already figured out that we can learn from.
Well, my favorite part of it too is know when to say no, and have a time to say no. I mean, somebody was presenting a new tool to us this week. I went to a conference last week, and one of the vendors there had something interesting, and he did a demo of it with me on the phone, and I said, well, that's really interesting. We already have our rocks for this quarter, our goals that we're working on. We wouldn't even think about doing anything until next quarter. And it might not be next quarter because we have our list of backlog. So it might be later this year. And he said, well, we have this special deal. If you sign up now, you get this special onboarding fee. And I said, we're just not going to do it. I'm not going to go back to my team and say, oh, we're going to have this add-on rock, or add-on goal for this quarter. It just is disruptive. So it's allows me to easily say no because I know where we're headed right now. And then we'll talk about it as a leadership team in a couple of months and, make a decision then if we're going to implement it or just put it on the back burner until we have time to implement it. And the question always comes up is like, when we talk about our issues inside the company, the direction we want to go is we prioritize them, and then sometimes things that seem like the biggest priority at the moment end up being on the bottom of the list because we realize that they're really not the most important thing. It might be the most important thing that moment, but it isn't the most important thing to lead the company in the direction you want to go.
Right, right, for sure. You had mentioned, liking to kind of learn and kind of evolve kind of your own kind of knowledge set as a leader. I'm curious, like what kind of, like, how do you like to do that? Are there certain people you like to kind of read or listen to? Is it more of pure conversations? What do you find brings you the most value?
I like listening to a wide variety and reading a wide variety of books. So there's not, any specific author that I said, oh, that's got to be it. But I always glean something from every book. And you can, see behind me, I have a, pile of books on the back and I really enjoy reading. I've recently, last couple of years, moved to Audible more. So I listen to a lot of audiobooks, whether I'm, on the airplane or driving. Gives me the opportunity to listen and learn. I really enjoy also listening to speakers. And one thing that I do if I am at a conference or a peer group, I take a lot of notes. And then I go back and blog about the speaker. So it gives me an opportunity to review the notes and then, come up with my own concepts and some stories, of how I've seen that work in my business and, things that I want to do. So again, I like listening and reading a wide variety, whether it's, Simon Sinek and or Malcolm Gladwell or, Jocko Willink or, just a huge variety because it's all very interesting and they come with different life experiences and different perspectives that just make me think differently. So just,
Yeah.
it's always interesting to learn from different people.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. After years of listening to podcasts and lots of other kind of audio content, finally started keeping track of the thought leaders I was coming across, like new for the first time that I really appreciated, not only to share with others, but then what else are they putting out and kind of going back to that list and seeing kind of what's new in their world. And it's nice to see like the evolution of some kind of business thought leaders through their own kind of transformation journeys.
And what is new is often old, you whether it's the Seven Habits book, you read a new book and you're like, wow, that really seems like they just took the Seven Habits, implemented and call it the Nine Habits or so, they don't say that exactly, but it's, a lot of these things have been around for 50 years or 100 years or 1,000 years. There's just time tested ways of, doing business, being a good person, achieving success in the world. There's just better ways of doing it, and they've been around for a really long time.
Right, right. Well, and I think you can read the same book twice, like 5 or 10 years apart, and based on where you are in the business and in your journey, is going to take very different things away from it too.
Agree with that 100%.
Yeah, Yeah. So I'd love to ask, is there something in at present that you're working on, whether kind of in the business or maybe even outside of work that you're excited about?
So our biggest thing that's going on right now is a evolution of our internet services division of our company. We have two sides of our business: managed IT services and then internet services side. And we've been offering internet services for about 25 years now. Uh, but there's been a lot of development and investment from the federal and state governments in building out fiber optic networks. So very excited that we won a large grant award in the state of Nevada to build out fiber to about 17,000 homes and businesses. And, we're pursuing the same thing in other states, but it's definitely been a challenge. This is the first time that we've gone through a grant funding process and, competitive grant funding process. And it's been a big learning experience for us of working with, rules and regulations and state governments, federal governments. But it's been a uh, huge learning opportunity and a huge win for our company. So we're very excited about that. And we sell the services in conjunction. So it's a complete technology solution, managed IT, voice over IP, internet services, all packaged up together for businesses. And then for residential customers, we offer, a variety of different residential services too. But being able to offer these type of services in communities that are often passed over, these really rural communities, where people have flocked to, definitely since COVID, a lot of people have decided to move away from large cities and into small towns, and they need the same type of internet connectivity that you would find in a Los Angeles, in a rural town like Lone Pine, California. That's where we're out west. So, you gotta, there's definitely a shift and a big investment to get that same access wherever you are in the US.
That's fantastic. I'm curious, from the business standpoint, how did you choose or identify that opportunity to focus on?
Well, we constantly watching what's going on in the political environment. They passed this law a few years ago and, realized that this was going to change our industry dramatically. The federal government's putting in $42 billion into fiber broadband infrastructure. And I said, we need to choose if we're going to work on investing in that. And I really remember specifically about a year and a half ago in a leadership meeting, I brought this to the team. I said, this is going to be a huge workload for us to do this. We're going to have to make commitments to dedicate time and money and energy to this. And it could dramatically change our company, or nothing could happen. We could win nothing. But we made the decision as a leadership team to make that investment, spend the time to do it. And it's already paying off dividends for us, and we'll continue to do so. And, sometimes I think as you go through business, you make those pivotal decisions that you don't expect are going to be as pivotal at the moment. But they really set the course of where you're going as a business. And there may only be a few of those in your life of your business. And I definitely think that's one of them for us that we did about a year and a half ago.
Yeah, yeah. I think sometimes you go into it kind of knowing it's a pivotal kind of shaping moment, and other times it's only in hindsight that you
Yeah.
kind of realize that, like trying like an innovative new kind of service or offering, and then it becomes kind of the core focus or a new market, any of those kind of situations.
And it's sometimes hard because you go through different things and you think this is going to be it for us. And then the market doesn't materialize for that. And, you constantly have to be creative in coming up with new ideas and try them, especially on small businesses. It gives us the opportunity to try them out in the market, maybe not spending a huge amount of money on them, but we have the ability to see if there's a market for it, and then we can pull back quickly if there's not. And it's definitely very strategic decisions we have to make as business owners of what makes sense, and then maybe have to pivot on it if they don't work out, or maybe you go all in and stick to your guns, and then it turns out great in the end. But there's always opportunities. It's just finding the right ones that make sense in the moment and for the future.
Yeah, yeah. Well said. I'm curious, Nathan, to hear a little bit more about kind of you, your background. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
So I I'm married. I have 5 kids, which keeps me very busy. Teenagers into young adults, and really enjoy spending time with family and my extended family. So that's where I spend a lot of time. Personally, I've changed some of my endeavors. About 15 years ago, 13 years ago, I started doing endurance sports. So I race in marathons and Ironman triathlons. And so I spend a lot of my time training. And I did that because both, I think, as owners, we have to focus on our mental and physical health, and having some type of outlet through physical activity allows me to show up every day to my work and to my family the best person I could be. So I spend a lot of time doing that, and enjoy the outdoors. As I mentioned, I always love learning and the opportunity to learn something from somebody else, whether it's listening to a podcast or a book or speaking event. I really enjoy that. Also a private pilot. I enjoy flying. Don't do it as much as I wish I could, but that's the other thing that I enjoy doing.
Well, that's great. I'm curious what got you into endurance sports.
So I was going through a health issue at the time. I was overweight and having a lot of lower back pain, and went to the doctor, and he gave me 2 options. He said, you can probably have your back fused in the next couple of years and live with pain your entire life. Or you can lose a bunch of weight and start exercising and live a healthier lifestyle. And I said, I'll choose door B, and went to physical therapy for a while, got on a good eating program. I don't call it a diet because I feel like it's just was a lifestyle change for me, and lost a bunch of weight. I had a friend that was doing triathlons, and he said, it's a great way to get fit. So I started biking and running with him. It was very slow to begin with because I needed to lose a bunch of weight to be able to improve speed, but it's just grown over time. But it was a good friend that kind of dragged me along and saw that I needed something, and it's just been a great community to belong to. Uh, you know, just learning from a lot of people that are very interested in both mental and physical fitness. And that's why I like endurance sports, is because it requires both. It's not just something that you can do physically. You have to do it mentally also. And there's just so many great benefits from it.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. I've been a runner for many years, but more recently did my first sprint triathlon, actually encouraged by a colleague of mine, and it was such a cool experience. And I know exactly what you're saying as far as the uh, kind of the mental game you need to play with yourself, as well as like the physical training. I think there's a lot of parallels to like running a business, right? Like that's an endurance sport in and of itself, but minus the
Yes.
physical component.
It very much is. And, it's having the habit and developing habits for, running or biking or whatever, athletic endeavor you have, I think are it's a similar type of habits that you create inside your business of being a great business leader. So it's taught me a lot about being a better leader inside my company, to learn, just overcoming challenges, developing those habits to get up at my alarm went off at 4:30 this morning, and I was on my bike and didn't want to get up, as I don't ever do in the morning, to do that in the cold and dark, but did it and overcame that mental block, and I do it every morning. And so it sets me up right for the day.
Yeah, yeah. It always feels good on the other side of that. You never do a workout and
Yes.
then regret having done it. You do regret hitting the alarm on the snooze button.
Yes.
Yeah. So Nathan, curious to hear before we wrap up the conversation, knowing everything you've learned over the years, is there any advice you would have given to young Nathan in college or shortly after, as you were just starting your career?
I think it's very similar advice to what my dad gave me, and sometimes I remember it and sometimes I don't. He was a business owner when I was young, and he said things take often twice as long and cost twice as much as what you expect, and often I have ignored that. But as I've learned to take that advice well, it's helped me be more successful, and just assuming things don't go as fast as what we want them to, and just be patient. It is, as they often say, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Running a business, it takes a long time for things to happen in the market and in business, for people to change. And you have to endure a lot. So I think that's the biggest thing to remind myself. Just be patient, and the process will work itself out with a lot of patience. I still have to remind myself of that often. It's not something that comes easily to me. Is the patience. So that's probably the biggest thing.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. Well, I'm gonna remember that one as well. I think I could use some of that. So if people want to reach out to you, any of our listeners, can you share where you can be reached?
The best way to connect with me is on LinkedIn. Really, I get on there pretty much every day. So I would like to extend this offer to anybody that's listening. So if you connect with me on LinkedIn and mention that you heard me on this podcast, I'd be happy to send you a copy of my book, The CEO's Digital Survival Guide. So, happy to send you a free hardback copy of that book.
That is a great offer. Thank you for that. And we'll make sure your information is in our podcast materials as well. Thank you so much. I really love this conversation.
Well, thanks for having me, and thanks everybody for listening.
Thanks again, Nathan. And thank you to everyone listening. I know I loved hearing so much of what Nathan has shared with us. And so if today's conversation gave you any valuable insights or new ideas, and I am sure that it did, please share this episode with someone. We know that spreading this kind of knowledge and insight helps us all grow as leaders and helps us drive successful transformation in our organization. So thanks again, Nathan. And this has been another fantastic conversation on Shift and Thrive. See you all next time. That's a wrap for this week's episode. For show notes and more, visit shiftandthrivepodcast.com. A special thank you to our sponsor, Magnitude Consulting, bringing you the thinking power of a growth consultancy and the getting it done power of a full-service marketing agency to help B2B companies fuel their growth. For more information on Magnitude and to get your complimentary transformation readiness assessment, visit magnitudeconsulting.com/getready. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next week.